All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming to talk.
Of
Want
course.
to start by introducing yourself?
I'm Alex. Nice to meet you.
Alex. All right. My name's Brandon. Nice talking to you. And you started the conversation off by talking from your car, saying you love meat.
I do love meat.
Okay. Okay. Now, when you say you love meat, what do you mean exactly by that?
I don't know, any meat like chicken, fish.
Are you referring to the taste specifically?
Yeah, I just need my protein. Like I can't get it from like plant-based sources.
Okay. So, two things, right? Number one, I'm going to define veganism, but I do
Yeah.
want to address your first thing, which is the loving part. Do you think that saying that you love something is a justification for an action?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, so let's say I really loved kicking puppies, and you saw me kicking puppies, and you said, "Hey man, why are you doing that? That's really messed up." And I said, "Well, I really enjoy how I feel when I kick those puppies." Do you think that's still justification?
I mean, kicking puppies isn't cool. I wouldn't say that's right now.
Okay, forget about the other aspects of it. Just me saying that I like doing something. Do you think that by itself is a justification for an action?
I wouldn't say so. No.
Okay, okay, cool. So we agree there. Now, I'll define veganism, right? Veganism is an ideology that rejects the commodification of animals, right? So that means we don't want to use them, abuse them, or kill them for food, clothing, entertainment, etc., right? So the first thing you said was, I like meat, right? So, like we agreed, that can't be your only justification. Because if it is, then it's not justified, it's inconsistent, right? Um, so you mentioned something else, which is protein, okay? Um, do you track your protein now?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, so do you know how much protein you're getting right now?
Yeah, usually like a gram per pound of body weight at least a day.
Okay, gram per pound of body weight. Okay. Now, what I will say about protein intake, there's two things, right? Number one, protein is very overconsumed, right? It's especially with, I know you seem like you go to the gym. I powerlifted for a very long time. I know bro science. They tell you a whole bunch of stuff. A lot of it actually has no research or is just passed around by word of mouth, right? For a regular adult male, the most protein you need in a day is about 60 to 70 grams, right? If you are an athlete and you're performing more, you get a little more. So maybe 80, 100, 120, let's say, right? You don't need a gram per pound of body weight, right? But even if you wanted that much protein, let's say you don't believe me, you want that much protein. What exactly do you think would be stopping you from getting that protein from plants?
Well, all I see on the market is like these fake meats, like trying to like imitate meat, and it's like filled with like all these artificial like ingredients that like are not good for you at all. So I don't plan on eating them.
Sure. And while fake meats actually are more processed than whole food plant foods like beans, whole grains like rice, oats, pastas, they are more processed. Actually, there was a recent study that showed that swapping meat for plant-based meat actually had beneficial health outcomes. And the reason for that is because it's lower in saturated fat and lower in cholesterol, which
You
is a
said you said saturated fat's bad for you and cholesterol.
so the best peer-reviewed research we have, which I can provide, I have sources, shows that a high saturated fat diet is the number one contributor to sclerosis, which is the development of plaque in your arteries. So it's not me; it's the best research. If you have heard that saturated fat and cholesterol doesn't matter, you're most likely hearing it with no studies backing it up. Or I believe there was one study about eggs, but the problem is they didn't adjust for baseline cholesterol. So that whole thing is a myth. Saturated fat and cholesterol definitely do impact your blood cholesterol levels, as well as your risk for heart disease. Not to mention that, but all of the best peer-reviewed research we have shows that vegans are at the lowest risk of most of our chronic diseases: heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity. So when it comes to the health, and not to mention I've been vegan for almost 7 years. I was getting 180 grams of protein on a vegan diet when I was powerlifting. I don't lift anymore. So now I get about 100 and do that every day continuously. And I track everything. So it's very doable. And it's when it comes to grocery shopping, it's just as inconvenient as going to a different aisle. So instead of going to meat, go to the fake meats. If you don't want to do the fake meats, you go to the beans, lentils, chickpeas. Do you know how high lentils are in protein?
I do not know.
All right, lentils are incredibly high in protein. For like about a cup of lentils, it's like 15 to 20 grams of protein. I mean, lentils are delicious. You could make it in a stew. You can make it in whatever you want. So I guess from there, is there anything else that would stop you from going vegan?
Well, don't vegetables have high like lectins, which are like anti-inflammatory to your gut?
So when it comes to vegetables, there are certain vegetables that can be difficult for some to digest, or can be maybe irritable for your bowel once you're transitioning. Because most Americans, they undereat fiber, right? So we actually have a fiber deficiency in the country. But that aside, you don't have to eat vegetables that don't agree with you. So I think it's like, I don't know, there's thousands of edible plants that we have. So if you don't agree with something, I eat very few vegetables. I eat mostly fruit. I eat a lot of grains. So you don't have to eat vegetables as long as you're getting all your vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. So, and in terms of, I'm assuming, I don't know, it sounds like you're pulling out some Paul Saladino Liver King arguments, if you know who they are.
Not really, but
Okay. Because I do hear on the internet a lot where people say, well, plants have defense chemicals, right? Yeah. That's a big one. So actually, there's no actual research showing that those defense chemicals harm humans at all. In fact, it's the opposite. The higher fruit and vegetable intake, the better the health outcomes, right? Which makes sense. We're all taught to eat your fruits and veggies as a kid because the research has been there for many years. The other thing is talking about defense chemicals. You try to eat an animal in the wild. Forget about what we do at factory farm where we completely disable them, abuse them, put them in cages. If you try to hunt an animal in the wild, they would try and defend themselves. Try and hunt a wild boar or like any type of animal that has any way of defending itself. It's gonna hurt you a lot more than the defense chemicals in broccoli, right? So that is definitely a huge myth. So I'm actually glad we're talking because I figured there's a lot of miseducation and misinformation. I have sources. I'll show you those after. But I guess from here, anything else that would stop you from going vegan?
I like the taste of meat. I don't really have a preference towards like. I mean, I like fruits and vegetables, but I'm not gonna purely just eat fruits and vegetables just because like it might be better for the environment. I don't know.
Okay. No, and look, I mean, I think most of us, I ate meat and animal products for 18 years of my life, right? Most of us are accustomed to these foods. We're brought up on these foods. There's like a sentimental value to a lot of these foods because that's what we grew up eating. I still miss ham and cheese sandwiches sometimes because that's what I ate my entire childhood, right? So, but what I would say is before you pick what you're going to eat, it's important to reflect on who our actions impact, right? So if I knew that me buying a certain product abused, dogs or abused a certain type of human or abused, me being a vegan, any sentient animal that can feel pain, that can have negative experiences, I would avoid that product, right? So I guess, would you consider yourself an animal lover or somebody who cares about animals?
I mean, I care about animals, but like, it's all part of the food chain. Like, animals eat animals. It's just part of life. I feel like, and also about like the consuming plants, like almonds. You need like so much water to even grow almonds. Same with other fruits and vegetables. Like, you need to eliminate all other like rabbits and all those like from your crops in order to produce like certain vegetables and fruits. So I mean, it's just as harmful to other animals as like just like killing one cow to feed like five like thousands of people. Like, I don't know, not thousands, but like a bunch of people. You know what I mean?
So couple things, and I'm gonna address your points, right? Because I hear these points all the time. So crop deaths. Actually, I haven't seen any valuable statistics or any statistics at all showing that there are more animals dying in crop deaths than the trillions, including sea animals, than the trillions of animals that we slaughter and farm for food every single year, right? Just on Thanksgiving alone, 46 million turkeys are killed just on that one day, right? So I haven't seen anything regarding crop death data that shows that. Even if they did, let's say there were a lot of crop deaths, what vegans are primarily opposed of are rights violations, right? So just like how car accidents kill people, animals, those are accidents and they're incidental deaths, right? So just because a lot of people die in car accidents doesn't mean we stop driving cars, right? Because they're useful, because we use them as a very useful tool. Same thing with crops. We need to eat. I'm not an advocate of us starving and going extinct, right? I want to keep the species going. But there's a very big difference between either incidentally killing animals while growing our crops, keeping them off for pesticides, versus intentionally breeding billions of animals into existence to then keep them in cages, abuse them, torture them, and then kill them for food at a year and a half, sometimes even less, right? So I would say that those two things in terms of rights violations are very, very different. You also mentioned almonds. So almonds are more intensive in terms of like environmentally to produce compared to other plants. But when you compare it to beef, pork, they are still much more efficient to produce. Even like when beef is by far the most inefficient. If you look at any data, the most water, the most land, the most greenhouse gas emissions, beef. So yeah, I mean almonds, and again, if you want to lower your environmental impact as much as possible, don't eat almonds. You don't have to eat almonds. I don't eat almonds. You know, I eat almonds like sometimes if I'm at a restaurant, but I don't like eat almonds every day. You don't have to do that, you know? If you're trying to be as minimal as possible, I encourage that. But first, before we bring up almonds, before we bring up all these maybe inefficiencies within plants, we've got to address the much bigger moral issue and rights violations that are happening to the sentient animals. And the reason why I brought up the dog thing, would you eat a dog?
I mean, it's an animal. I mean, if I really had to, I would eat a dog.
Not had to. Would you want to eat a dog?
I would not want to eat a dog. No.
Okay. So could you tell me the moral difference, as in like the different, like why we should treat a dog differently than a cow, chicken, or pig, right? When it comes to how we treat them. Could you tell me the difference? Why is there a differentiation there?
Well, I've never tried eating a dog, so I'll never expect to eat a dog. I don't know.
But if I gave you
if it was a custom, then I'd eat a dog. It doesn't really matter to me.
Okay. But if I gave you the option right now, hey, you give me $15, I'll come back with a nice dog burger, you would say no.
If I was hungry, I would eat it.
If you could eat, if it was rice and beans or dog meat burger, which one would you choose?
Probably rice and beans.
Okay.
I mean, because I already know what that tastes like.
So rice and beans versus a nice cheeseburger, which one would you pick?
Probably. I don't really eat cheeseburgers, but like just like meat in general, yeah, I'd probably eat meat.
Okay. So here's what I'm trying to illustrate is something called speciesism. And speciesism is the discrimination and the, unequal treatment of different species of animals, right? So we breed and murder billions of cows, chickens, and pigs, but we treat dogs and cats as pets. It's animal abuse if you hit them, if you do anything bad to dogs and cats, let alone kill them. So there's actually nothing morally different. They are both a sentient. They're both, in fact, pigs are actually more intelligent than dogs. They've been shown to be. So there's actually no difference from a moral perspective as to why we should treat one worse than the other one. But we just do, because these are roles that we assign to these animals just because at some point we had to eat meat to survive, but at this point we don't, right? So we continue to give unequal treatment to multiple species of animals when in reality they should all be treated equally and protected, as in protected from, death, murder, and abuse, right? Does that make sense?
It does make sense, yeah.
Okay, all right. And you also mentioned custom. Like I said, I know I grew up eating everything, ice cream, McDonald's, fast food. Forget about it. That's a custom. You want to talk about custom? But when we look at how how our actions impact other sentient animals, do you think that something being cultural, or something being a social norm, is a justification for an action?
I would say in certain circumstances, yeah, but yeah.
So, let's say it was a cultural norm to enslave one race of people. Do you think that is justified?
No.
And why is that not justified?
because it's just not right in our day of age. Like it was common very back then, but like obviously there's like human rights that are violated, and yeah.
Right, and like you mentioned right away, like we had the American slave trade. It was not only was it accepted, but it was a huge industry that pretty much built the country, right? But as you acknowledge, we can recognize that just because something was accepted, just because something is cultural, doesn't mean that it's justified. And we know that now because we can empathize with those humans who, again, are just like any other human, but we just treated them differently because of a certain attribute, whether it be their race, their sex, their gender, etc. I'm sorry, sexuality, their gender, whatever it is, whatever the discriminatory factor is. It's all arbitrary, and all humans, just like all sentient animals, because they can feel pain, feel joy, should deserve a right to life and a right to not be treated differently just because we decide to. Right? And I'll leave you with one thing. I appreciate this is a long talk, so I appreciate it. And I'll let you put in any other points, but I'll leave you with one hypothetical. Imagine, think about what we do to animals, right? We breed them by the billions, trillions if you count sea animals, and we do whatever we want to them. Kill them, abuse them, drink their milk, use them for leather, whatever, right? Imagine, because we're the apex predator, right? I'm sure we could agree. We are the dominant species on the planet. Now, could you imagine if there was an alien species that were as far as we are from cows, chickens, and pigs, they're as far from us, right? More intelligent, stronger, better like communicator, everything, right? Imagine if they came down to the planet and they started farming us like we do to animals, right? Just because they want to, just because they like the taste. They have other food, but because they like the taste of us, they'd start doing that. Would you want to live in that world, right? Would you consider that a moral action? I wouldn't. Right? And unfortunately, there would be nothing we could do about it, but I would plead my case and say, look, same thing that I do to people who eat animals, I'd say to them, right? So I wouldn't want to live in that world, and I'm sure you wouldn't want to be eaten for alien food either, right?
No.
So I appreciate the talk, but do you have any other points or questions or anything? I'm open book.
I was just gonna say like I feel like everyone should just like eat what they want to eat, and like I don't know, like forcing a like not an opinion, but just like forcing a lifestyle on someone isn't like necessary in order to like achieve a common goal. Like I feel like there should be some workarounds.
Yeah, and I would say like, look, if this is forcing, then you don't want to see like actual force because this is I'm here to educate, have an open conversation. I can't look. You can get in your car. You could go. You could eat whatever you want. You could eat cow, chicken, pig. You eat dog. I'm not. No one can stop you, right? So you can do whatever you'd like. It's not government regulated, right? So there's nothing illegal, right? But I would argue the same thing. Like, I think education is number one, and the more people that are educated, and the more talks we have like this, the more people actually have the choice. Because as of now, a lot of people aren't educated, right? Even some of the points you made, you probably heard from the internet or from different people. There's a lot of misinformation out there. So I don't think it's a real equal fight. But also, when we look at it from the victim's perspective, right? That's probably what slave owners said when they said, well, look, if you don't want to have slaves, go up north, you don't have to have slaves, but don't come here and force your ideology, your beliefs on us, right? When in reality, when we're looking at it from the victims, people who are in unfortunate circumstances or are in oppressive circumstances need that regulation in order to be protected properly, just like children, right? If you had people abusing children and someone was like, look, if you don't want to abuse children, go over there, I'm doing my thing. But no, those children need protection by an authority so that they don't get harmed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
All right, man. Well, look, I obviously I don't know if you're going to go vegan, but I hope you think about what we talked about. I hope I'm going to give you the resource, and it was nice talking to you, man. Do you have anything else before you go?
No, that's it.
All right, man.
Nice to meet you. What's your name?
Brandon.
Brandon. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Alex, give you a card.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.